Welcome back to part two with Becky and Kenzie. We are finally back. Our new topic is detoxing from negativity. But before we get into all of the things that are involved with detoxing from negativity, we want to just give you a little insight on why we felt it was necessary for us to take a break. So go ahead, Becky.
Yeah, so this was, I guess I had reached out to Kenzie before we were about to record. I haven't had this in a really, really long time. I had probably one of the worst panic attacks and anxiety attacks that I've had in a very, very long time. And it was really scary at the time because I didn't know. I felt like something was off. And when I can't identify the trigger to my anxiety, that's when I know it's hormonal and it's something internally. And I don't know if I've ever shared this with you guys. I maybe touched on it a little bit. I had to start on thyroid medication because postpartum, in the middle of quarantine, the pandemic, my thyroid went into hypothyroidism, which is common postpartum. So we've talked about this in the past, how very sensitive I am to vitamins, medicine, anything that can alter my state. And for most people, the dose that I was on was like the second lowest, I guess you can say. But I called the doctor hysterically crying, just saying something is off. I need this. This is too much medication for me. And thyroid medication is like that. So again, I didn't want to be on this, but for now, I had to be on it. So the doctor said, okay, lower it, cut it in half,
Does
go
the
back.
does the thyroid have to do with your cortisol levels?
The thyroid controls your entire body.
Right.
Everything. The thyroid, I did not realize how important this little thing,
Yeah.
this little tiny
Everything is connected. Yeah.
your adrenals, your hormones, your
Mm,
stress levels, your
gotcha.
mood, so anxiety, depression. That's why
Yeah.
like postpartum, when we talk about like postpartum depression, no one ever says like check your thyroid. They're like,
Mm,
oh, they either think it's normal or like it's what you're supposed to go through. But no, even losing your hair postpartum, they're like, oh, it's you didn't lose any hair when you were pregnant because of the prenatal vitamins and blah 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 blah. No, it's your thyroid. These are signs of your
yeah.
thyroid. Something is off. There's an imbalance in the body. And
Right.
you guys know me. I always search and hunt for root causes. I want to know why this is happening. So this, I did actually have this in my notes. So I guess we can talk about this first,
Yeah.
just because it was like an important part of why I had to take a break. And coincidentally, when we talked synchronicities, when I had reached out to Kenzie, she was like, I actually had a really bad panic attack too. So we were both like
In,
going through some things the same day. Even
yeah.
one of my friends, she's like, it was like this really weird energy. And I ended up calling my therapist, who I hadn't spoken to in a really, really long time.
Yeah. That's good that you were able to find the courage to do that while you were in this
In it,
mindset because that's hard to like remember to reach out while you're
yeah.
in this state.
I
So,
mean, my breathing was so shallow. I was so lightheaded. So when I
mm,
get the physical, um, I guess I don't even know physical symptoms or physical signs of like
yeah.
a panic attack or anxiety, it's so scary.
Yeah. And people, it's not your everyday anxiety. Like people kind of don't usually understand unless it's happened to you. It's an overwhelming amount all at the same time and it's not something that you can just get past. It takes a process to be
Yeah.
able to work through it.
And then with Violet, like I'm like, oh my God, I can't like function.
Yeah.
My husband, he had to come home from work because I was like, I can't. I'm so lightheaded that like even just sitting, I felt like I was on a boat. And then that was when I get dizzy like that, I freak myself out and it makes it worse.
Mm.
Um,
That happens when my breathing is disrupted from anxiety attacks. That's when I start to freak out because then I'm like, oh my God, I can't breathe. Like, and then my
and
breathing
that's
gets even
even more.
worse. Yeah. And
Yeah,
more.
that's
So,
so that's the only thing I can focus on in those times. So if anyone watching has experienced this, try to remember to focus on breathing, even if it's the shallowest
yeah.
breath. You will eventually catch your breath, but
I
it's
was
so scary.
That's important because when I like have like anxiety attacks or I feel them coming on, I try to take deep breaths and sometimes you can't take a deep breath. And then because I can't take a deep breath, I'm freaking myself out more. So just
Yes.
take whatever breath you can, even if it's like you said, a shallow breath, just as long as you're trying to count your breaths, even if it's 2 counts in and it's not a full deep breath, just 2 counts in, 2 counts out, that's okay. Like, don't try to focus on taking a deep breath. Like, you'll eventually get there, but work yourself up to that.
Yeah, I even think one of the things. So yeah, so with my therapist, I called her. She doesn't take my insurance anymore, so that was like, ugh, But she's like, I can help you. If you look up, and then you can send me the list, and I can tell you like who she knows. So, um, but even just talking with her for those few minutes, like I felt better, and I'm crying now because like hormones. And like and it's certain things when I
It's like,
talk about it, I just cry. Like I'm talking and I'm like releasing and I'm crying, and it's
yeah,
like but yes, so I was also freaking myself out because I did have a doctor's appointment to check my thyroid, and I worried myself like to this point because I was like, I don't want to be on a higher dose of
yeah,
this medicine. And then it's like thinking of Violet, it's getting so emotional because it's like I don't want her to see like a sick parent growing up the way I did. My dad was on so many medications. He passed away when I was 15. I didn't want her to to see that because for me that was hard,
yeah.
growing up seeing just like bottles of medication, and maybe that's the reason why for myself I'm like I'm not taking anything, but with this
Yeah,
I didn't have a choice because if when your thyroid is so um, unbalanced,
fast.
it
Yeah,
it gets bad. Like you can go into severe depression, and like there was a lot more to this. So the happy tears of this now. So the happy part of this was that when I went back to the doctor, my thyroid is finally within normal limits. Um,
yay.
and that
That's
was,
good.
yeah, and it's happy tears because it was, I still have to be on this medicine for now, but that was within a 6 month span.
Mhm.
So January I found out. And one of the things, like I know we talk about like tips and tricks and tools and things. When I first found this out, as you can see, I cried and cried and cried because I refused to accept this diagnosis as fact. And I think that that's also part, like your mind also controls a lot of like your physical body. And
Yeah,
I still refuse to acknowledge that something was wrong or that there was an imbalance because I was like, no, my body is balanced,
mhm.
my thyroid is healthy, and that so I refuse to accept that diagnosis as fact. But then we always talk about positive affirmations. So I would say at night in bed, like in my head, my thyroid is in normal range. My thyroid is healing itself.
Mm.
And then I would say these antibodies and hypothyroidism are not welcome in my body. So get the fuck out now. So like those can be affirmations. Like
Yeah.
you can be very assertive in, you know,
Mhm.
what you're projecting out into the world, how you want to heal your body. um,
Yeah.
and the doctor said, so along with that, he had also recommended, because I was like, okay, I'll take this, but you need to tell me what supplements I can take too. So he recommended selenium. So I started taking that under his guidance.
Mhm.
And he did say that because now I'm on the literal lowest dose of this medication, that being on that low of a medication, my body was doing the work.
Mhm. So you trusting in your body to heal itself, it was actually like
Yeah.
doing that. It just needed that little bit of
Yeah,
assistance.
just like a boost.
Yeah.
But he said, like, this is all, you did all this work, so you should be very proud.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now you like you said, you're in normal range, and like what a
Yeah.
relief that is that like you trusted in your body and it worked for you, you
Yeah.
know?
I'm also gonna have him, he did say, which I can laugh at, because anytime I see a doctor, one of the first things that I say to them is, I'm very sensitive to medicine, supplements. I'm very in tune with my body.
Mhm.
If there's something off, I might not know what it is, but if I tell you, I need your help in
Mhm.
helping me find what's actually wrong. So he did say that it's not common, and that other, some people, when there's like fluctuations in hormones, women, we our monthly cycles, like we have those fluctuations. He said some people are more sensitive than others, and I was like, put that in my notes. And he is going to do, I have to go for a bunch more blood work. So I said, I need you to check like this. Like I had a list, and then I said, and anything else that you feel is important. So it's a lot of like vitamin levels, um, especially my vitamin D. I also bought a book. So the things that I did, so in those like panic, anxiety, in those down states, I'm always fighting. And I don't know if you do the same thing, like I feel like I'm trying to claw my way out,
Mhm.
and I'm doing anything and everything that I can. They always say, oh, feel your feelings and feel however you are, like don't fight it. But sometimes I'm so uncomfortable that I'm like, no, I don't like feeling like this, and I know that there's things that I can do.
I felt that way with my panic attack. It was more about just like not feeling safe in my body. And like, this is from like, of course, my past traumas and things that I've been through. But it was, I just wanted to escape my own skin, like, and my own
Mhm.
feeling. Like, even yoga wasn't like, I couldn't get in the right mindset to like just breathe and sit in the poses. I just wanted to like escape every pose that I was in, and like nothing was helping. And I, again, like you said, sometimes you can't just sit with it and you want to like fight out of it. But I definitely get
I
that.
definitely, yeah, I had that. I even said, I think, to my mom, or I don't even remember, because I was also like disoriented.
Yeah.
Um, but I did say, I said, I feel like I'm crawling out of my skin, and I don't like this feeling. Like it's a
Yeah.
creepy feeling.
Mhm.
Um, so I did buy a book, and this may have contributed to that anxiety and panic, because it's not what I thought it would be. So I think it's called like
Right.
root cause of Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism. Um, and it's written by a pharmacist, I think Isabella Wentz. I'm not 100% sure on that. So I bought that book. I started reading it, but it was the very beginning was like this lady like talking about all her stuff, and then it's very sciencey. So like there's a lot of science, there's a lot of information. A
Mhm.
lot of the beginning of that book did not pertain to me.
Mhm.
but she goes through like what labs to request. And she mentioned that people with who have antibodies, and this is a family, this is hereditary. So then I start thinking of Violet. Then I start crying even more, like
Right.
thinking that I passed something
On
to
her.
her.
Yeah.
Which her last doctor's appointment, she had to have some blood work, and I requested them to check, to see, just so I can mentally prepare myself, or just get um, peace of mind, or see what
Mm.
where she is.
Yeah.
Um, so I got that book, which I think that's one of the triggers of like this whole like big panic. Um, at the same time, I also got an acupressure mat. Um, I
Mm.
can't always get to acupuncture because with Violet, like just it's not super close to my house.
I just started
So
acupuncture.
yeah, acupuncture is great. So
Yeah.
I got this acupressure mat. Um, so I did use it. It was like perfect timing. Like I felt this way. I think I had ordered it maybe right before. It
Mhm.
had come like right like the next day maybe or whenever. So I started using it. I feel the same relaxing way that I do after acupuncture. So I know it's working. It
Right.
was a weird sensation in the beginning, and I know
Mhm.
you just have the pillow or you have the mat
I
too.
have the pillow, which I
Okay.
usually use for my neck area. It was for my migraines. I would use it in this
Okay,
area.
yeah, yeah.
But I can see how the mat could be a little more intense because your whole body is on those.
Yes.
Like it's not a comfortable feeling, but after you relax, it
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like when they're
getting
sticking needles in your face. It's not necessarily relaxing when they put them in, but after you sit there for a while with them in, it becomes, very
yeah,
relaxing.
so I have the mat and I have the pillow. It's getting on and getting off. I think you're supposed to, once you're like in the beginning it says like wear clothes or loose fitting clothes, and then
Yeah,
you can do it like without a shirt. I don't know if I would do it without a shirt just because I feel the
it's very
benefit
sensitive.
like with my clothes
Right.
anyway, but my skin the first time it felt like itchy a little bit,
Mm,
and I was like, okay, that's all right. We're just gonna ignore that, and then it went away. But it was the nervous system, the meridians. With acupuncture though, I always hold my breath. Like I know, and it doesn't hurt. Like the needles, I know you're not even supposed to feel them. If you feel them, like that one time when my hand like twitched out,
yeah,
it's it might be too much, or they may have hit a nerve in your
yeah,
body. So you always like if something's hurting, just be like, this one feels uncomfortable, or this one feels hot, or um,
yeah.
and stuff like that. But yeah, so I got those two things, and then I figured out so the root cause. So I really so with that book, it talks about postpartum hypothyroidism. They talk about a traumatic event can trigger your thyroid to going out of whack. Um, Courses of antibiotics, or so I had like the trifecta because I don't know if you guys remember, like, so I was postpartum, then after like being postpartum, then I was diagnosed with Lyme antibodies, then I was put on a month-long course of antibiotics that I got sick from, then we had the quarantine and the pandemic, so like this plus this plus this
Yeah.
equals like massive stress on the body
Mm,
and my thyroid. So I don't know because that was like maybe four months postpartum. So, but this whole thing for me, it took a year to even get an appointment, get a diagnosis.
mhm.
So many testings, like the Lyme diagnosis didn't show up. Like it took like 3 or 4 times
Mm,
to get those positive antibody results. Because Lyme, I hate Lyme. It's a motherfucker. Like it's just it I hate it because of how tricky that can be. It
Right.
like hides, and then it doesn't always like pop out. I don't fully believe with that either. So that's another thing where I'm like, I don't fully believe that I had that, because could it have been all these things? The symptoms are very similar.
Right.
So it's like this like puzzle that I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna now fight all of this because I don't want to even acknowledge or accept. I think even people with chronic conditions or more serious conditions can, where they say like, oh, it's rare to maybe come out of it. But you do see those rare cases of people like who have been really sick and then they're like, oh, I did um, I guess alternative medicine, or maybe they did both alternative and
Yeah.
traditional, and they're like completely healed and stuff. So that's where it's that mind over matter,
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
where I believe that. Oh, and then I don't know if we mentioned this. So all while everything is going on, Mercury's in retrograde, and then we just had a week or so ago my Gemini solar eclipse. So
Yeah.
anytime, so these like, what is that called?
Astrological
Yeah, or like uh,
changes.
like astronomy, like in the sky. Um, whenever we have these like events, I'm sensitive to that kind of stuff. Like anything, my best friend laughs every time I mention this, and then she has me giggling because a couple years ago, I don't know if you remember that. Was it? Oh yeah, that big solar eclipse. It was like this huge,
Right. They
where
told you not to look at the sun and buy these glasses.
yeah, and it was like and it was such an intense. So I remember being outside. I don't even know if I may have. Oh no, I tried to record when I used to do Monday's Mindful Minutes. I had tried to go outside and record, and my phone like stopped working because I
Right.
think it was such an intense like technology was getting all like disrupted. And I always said to her because my period was late, and I'm like, well, my period's late because the solar eclipse. She goes hysterical. She thought that was like the funniest. She was just like cracking up, and I start laughing because then when I said it out loud, and then I'm like, no, it's true. Like, like, that's the thing. I'm always regular. And that was like a one-time thing.
Whenever
Um,
there's like something going on like emotionally, I'm like, what phase is the moon in right now?
yeah, and I do use, speaking of the moon, I don't know if you use this app. It's called Moonly. Have
No.
you heard of it? I'm gonna get the paid version of it. I have the free version now because I wanted to see what it's all about, but I really like it. There was actually, I think yesterday's affirmation. Hold on, let's see. I screenshotted it because it, again, the perfect like timing of recording.
Yeah.
So yesterday. So yesterday's affirmation was, I release all negative thoughts of the past and all worries about the future. And I'm like, okay, like we are like we're synced. Like it's like I feel like connected. And then if I get like anxiety, like I get thrown off, but then like I get these little messages. Um
I
oh
just loaded the I Am app, which has like the affirmations that they send you like multiple times.
wow. Okay.
So that one is helps me because like I'll just be in the middle of like a work day, like going crazy, and then it just sends me these things. And then like one of them today was everything that isn't meant for my highest good must leave. And it's like the same thing. Like
Yeah, I like that. I
so it
like
gives you like a bunch of different ones and you can choose whether you want like self-love affirmations, if you want like future, like, and then it'll send you throughout the day little like just little push notifications on the top. It doesn't like disrupt your phone or anything. So but yeah.
I have to
And, oh
download
my
it.
god, another one just popped up just now. It says I release the past and trust that good things will happen to me. So
Let
it's
me
like
check.
all aligned. It's called I Am.
I am. Yeah, this is Moonly. Let's see. That's today's. It'll. So it'll. sometimes it'll pop up and it'll be like, your affirmations are ready. I'm like, what? And then, because it always pops up when I'm like in the middle of something, and I'm like, I'll look at that later. So today's, I cross all bridges with joy and ease.
I like that one.
That's nice. And then this one, it's funny because this one, so speaking of, I guess we'll just go back and forth because like I'm scattered, my notes are scattered because everything is kind of interconnected for me with like every which way. But I laugh because this app will tell you, hold on, where is it? It'll say haircut, like so today it says haircut and it says unfavorable. so so I think that that's like, I never really believed in stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like where it's like don't like cut your hair on
Yeah.
like those kinds of things. But I cut my hair myself because my hair was so long and I was just like, so that I guess panic and anxiety transitioned into detoxing from negativity because when I get like that, I can't be on social media, I can't watch TV, I can't listen to noise. I need to fully focus
Yeah.
more so being outside, being in nature, doing things to relax my body
Found
instead of
you
doing
again.
things that are like stressing my body.
Stimulating. Yeah.
Um, so I ended up just, I said to my husband, I was in the bathtub, standing in the bathtub, and like hold this mirror. And I was literally just like just like cutting, just, I went to town and I was like, I don't even care if it's like super even. My hair looks better when it's uneven. And I just felt better and I felt lighter because that's one of the things like when we detox from negativity, it's like cut your hair, cut the dead weight, cut the
Yeah.
like, you know, just um
I know too, like I always think about like the subconscious now because I'm doing which I'll talk about. I'm doing hypnotherapy, which is all about your subconscious.
oh,
So and I'll explain like the myths about it because it sounds like very
is that
scary,
like
but it's not.
tapping? Like when you're tapping?
There is that type of
Okay.
I think that's called like
Oh,
EMDR.
hypno. Not to be all like cliche, but is it like you're getting
So
sleepy?
people think it's that, but it's literally they just put you into a meditation. She doesn't like make you
Oh,
see
okay.
anything or do anything, but so your subconscious like is holding on to like subconsciously when we keep our hair long or we put on weight, it's because we're subconsciously trying to keep other people away and cover ourselves
Mhm.
and like not let people near us. That's why sometimes like people who have been through trauma or things will gain a lot of weight or will cover themselves with really long hair and not cut their nail, like do things that make them undesirable so that way they don't have to get the attention. But that's all like in your subconscious. It's crazy how much our actions are driven by that subconscious.
Yeah, that's funny where I was like, oh, it's like
Yeah. So like I guess I'll talk about it now, but
yeah,
like
yeah.
so all it is she you sit in a chair, you take a deep breath and you start to relax and she just basically is saying affirmations to you to change the patterns that are in your brain, the negative patterns that are in your head. So I go to her for, a specific trauma, but you can go to her for or him, whoever you find, for positive things too. If you want to just let's say you have a fear of public speaking. That's not like a traumatic thing that happened to you. You just like can't speak in front of people. She can help tap into your subconscious to make you, more confident in that area. So all it is a guided meditation, and she basically says certain things that speak directly to your subconscious. So even if you feel like you're dozing off and you like aren't listening actively, you're not supposed to be actively listening because she's talking to your subconscious and she's changing the neural pathways of what your brain usually connects to in the negative space, and she's changing it to like these positive pathways. So I have actually a session later today, and it'll be my final one. So I only went to 4. She said no one's ever been to her for more than 6 sessions, and it wipes out whatever they go to her for. So I'm like interested to see like after this one how I feel, but I've definitely been noticing like whatever my triggers were. It doesn't mean that the triggers don't come. It just means that your emotional response to them is neutral. So it's not going to wipe away your memory. It's not going to, hypnotize you in like the way that you see in the movies, but it will neutralize your emotion to whatever you're going to her for.
So is it like rewiring your brain? Like,
Yep, 100%. It's almost like meditation, but she just helps you do it.
yeah.
And
Do
the things
you,
like the technique that she says, like the things that she says are very specific and tested techniques. It's not just she's saying random affirmations. Like obviously it's tested and she makes sure that it's actually altering your brain state, but it's really crazy.
does she use sounds, like different sounds when she
Yeah,
does?
so there will be just the background music. It's not like any
Okay.
type of ding or anything like that. Like it's just background music and her voice. And you just sit there and she just reads through her thing. And it's about 40 minutes and you just sit there and then at the end you feel like a weight's been lifted from you. And then the next time a trigger comes up, you notice that your emotions aren't as heightened as when they usually were. So I'm interested to see how this last session will go because it's been interesting so far. But it's definitely something that like I was not sure of either because all you see about hypnotherapy is like, oh, in 5 seconds when I snap my fingers, you're gonna wake up and blah blah blah. Or while you're hypnotized, they make you do things, and it's like it's not that at all. You're just sitting there relaxed and listening to somebody speak. So definitely want to end the stigma about that one because um,
It's like I'll see things like hypno, like quit smoking or stop doing
so
this, stop doing that.
right. So those are very different from what she does because she said she won't even take a client if they ask her to quit smoking or to lose weight. She said that type of hypnotherapy is very different. And not that she doesn't agree with it, but it's not going to the deeper level that she does with things because she works with a lot of vets and a lot of people with PTSD and things like that and
That's
phobias.
how it's
So, yeah. hmm
yeah. Yeah, because I think I've never tried hypnotherapy because of seeing stuff on TV where it's like, no,
Yeah,
I'm fully in control of my body.
exactly. So it's not
Now,
that
like,
at all.
I didn't
Yeah,
understand.
you're in complete control of your body, and if you want to like snap out of it, you're not like in a trance.
Yeah,
You're just like in a meditative state. You're not in
similar.
something that you can't get out of. Like if there's a fire, you're gonna know that there's a fire. You're not in a trance. Like so, it's
It's
very
like
but
cool.
yeah, it's like your whole life is literally created by like your thoughts and your belief systems.
Yeah.
So where do those belief systems start? In your subconscious from birth. Like from birth, your cells start holding on to experiences, and then as your conscious mind develops, you create these belief systems that then sit in your subconscious as you grow as an adult, and then you wonder why you have these fears or these irrational things, and it's because it was a belief that was created when you were so young that could have nothing to do with anything. Like it's crazy. It's all like your subconscious holds on to everything. So if you can detox your subconscious, that is huge. Like even just like as simple as like stop complaining because that's creating this subconscious belief in your head like that everything is negative, that something is always wrong, that people are out to get you or that nobody likes you. Like any type of complaint starts getting ingrained in your subconscious, and then now you have this negative lens of the world rather than looking at the world as like this beautiful place. You always have something to complain about, but again, that's your subconscious mind that's doing that to you. So it's
I
crazy.
that definitely with the detoxing negativity. I think I had that somewhere in here where,
Yeah.
kept myself from being negative on social media because I think sometimes
Mm.
I use social media. I'm thinking it's like, oh, this is a way for me to like vent, not
Mhm.
realizing that there's other people like receiving that information. So like
Yeah.
I'll start like typing things and then I'm like delete that, X out of
Mhm.
that, like close this.
Right.
Um
Yeah,
yeah,
detoxing from certain people on social media too. Like you said, if they are projecting that negativity, it's not worth it. Like you don't need to consume that. Everything that you consume consumes you. So if you're consuming negativity, negativity consumes you. If you're consuming positivity, whether that's the news, social media, what you read, what you watch, like movies, music, what you listen to, like whatever you're consuming will consume you. So
Yeah.
let it be positive, you know?
So we're going to talk about, so I think one of the first things I did that in that like panic attack, anxious state where I didn't feel safe, I didn't feel in control of like my body. Once I kind of like came down from that, I
Yeah.
went through like a social media, I guess, cleanse and detox. And this was first with my own pages. Um, the mindset that I'm in right now with Violet is I don't feel or believe that certain people deserve to watch her grow up.
Mm.
And I started like with the Violets and Sage. It was kind of like, I guess, like just like to see her growth, like you're posting
Yeah.
photos and then you get to see like a year's worth of photos, like, wow,
Hmm.
she's grown, or, memories.
Hmm.
And there was people on there. First, I didn't realize. So if you guys don't know this, because I just found this out when I did this on Instagram, you can remove followers.
People
And
that
I was
follow
like,
you,
yeah,
right?
people that follow you. So like you can unfollow people, but because I was like, I don't want all these people on my
Looking at,
page, like looking at her. And then I was like going through and I clicked. I think you have to go to their profile, like those three dots. I don't remember how exactly, but play
yeah.
around on Instagram, or you could probably Google like how to remove your own followers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, and I just removed. So it was like 100. I think I went from like, I had like 100 less, and I'm okay with that. Um, but I was like, wow, that's a big number, like to just be like unfollow or like remove. And I see this on social media, whether it's like mom groups or networking groups. People are afraid to block, delete, remove people. They're afraid to do that because of maybe like how the other person is going to react to that, or maybe say
Exactly.
something to them, or or whatever it is, like they're feeling uncomfortable. So that's like a way to reclaim your power. So that's like when you give your power away, like you're giving them control over how you feel. So
Mhm.
that's something that I do it too. Like there's certain people where it took me like maybe a year to delete them, just because I was like,
Yeah,
oh, I don't want to deal with this. Or what if I see them like out in public and it's
yeah.
awkward and you just like don't know. But and this was mainly, so going back to, so like how you said, the wiring in your
Mhm.
hypnotherapy and like past
Yeah.
things, I never I never want Violet to feel like how I felt growing up.
Mhm.
Um, my mom's family is my family. And then I have another side that when I was a kid and um they would see me, which would be not that often. So like my mom, like that big Italian family, hello, hug, kiss. Then there's this other side that wouldn't even say hello, hug me, acknowledge me. And as a kid, I didn't understand why
Yeah.
or how a family could do that and just
Right.
be cold like strangers. So now I'm in that they ignored me then, so I'm ignoring them now as an
Mhm.
adult. I don't feel that, and I've seen this on,
And
there's
it's
some
not,
other moms.
I just want to make the point too, it's
Mhm.
not a revenge thing. Like you're
Mm-mm,
not doing it as like, oh, well, you did this to me, so I'm doing
mm-mm.
this to you. It's coming from a place of your own healing and what your needs are. Like
And
you
it's
don't,
coming from more of a protection, like for
yeah,
her. Like it has nothing to do with me because I've had them for a while, but I started thinking, and I guess like watching Violet grow up, like certain things I'll remember that I wouldn't even maybe have remembered until like she was born. These little
mhm,
memories, and they might not be so positive. So like, okay, detoxing negativities. This is how I'm choosing to cope, heal, and handle
well,
that. It's,
yeah, you're also
you don't need to
detoxing.
be in my life. Like you're not, you're a stranger to me.
Right,
I
you're
don't know
detoxing
you.
from people in person as well as social media. Like you
Yeah.
sometimes like people in person that are draining your energy or they're not able to hear you or they don't respect your needs. You also have to detox from in-person people, not just on social media. So
Yeah. And
that's
I think I was coming from the place of, so that inner child, that like hurt little girl, I never want that for her. I never want her to feel unwanted or ignored
mhm,
by family, and and I'll teach her, like, if I see any of that, like
mhm,
family, friends, or any kind of thing that reminds me of that, I have no problems letting those people know. Like, this is not
yeah,
okay. Like, then just don't come around. If you can't acknowledge her, if you can't, and I think that the expectation, I guess it's just like manners. Like, I don't need you to have like an hour conversation with me. Just say hello and goodbye. If you say hello and goodbye to me, I'm fine. You don't need to ask me questions. I don't need to interact with you. Just hello, goodbye. That's it. Like, and I'm
yeah.
okay. Like, if you just walk in the room
Ignore.
and you're ignoring me, like, I acknowledge people. I try to acknowledge everybody,
Yeah,
unless if I'm chasing her around, but or I'll still even be like, hey, like, um,
mhm,
stuff like that. And then on Facebook, so I still have, I made it, I didn't deactivate it. I just made it not public on
mhm,
Facebook. I couldn't figure out, I was like, how do I can't make my like Facebook page private, but my Instagram is now private. So
mhm.
basically I'm like, everything is locked up, like kind of thing. Um,
You got to protect your energy and what matters to you, which is Violet, and
yeah.
you can
And
have access to your energy.
yeah, and the thing with them, like, whatever for them, whatever their family wound issues are, those are not mine to keep.
Right.
And I felt like when we talk about like projection and stuff, and I always felt like how you said, like this weight.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I do, or that you can do, it's the return to sender. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I didn't know that this was an actual thing until I'm part of like these like witch groups. And I like it. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'm a witch. I'm a kitchen witch, like, or just
Mm-hmm.
nature witch. Like, um, it gives like a positive spin on like that whole culture.
Mm-hmm.
But they always talk, like, people always ask for like spells. And to me, like, I don't really do spells, but I do my little rituals, or like detoxing, cleansing. So return to sender. So that could just mean, okay, you can say it, you can write it down, or you can visualize literally throwing out clutter, whether
Yeah.
it's physical stuff or mental clutter in your head.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like a detox of your emotions. It's like
yeah,
getting it out, whether it's on paper or you say it out loud, or like you said, if you clear your space, then your mind becomes clear. Like,
one of the most important things that I do when I feel like this, like when people, like when it comes to gifts, I'm like, just give me money. Like, don't get me knickknacks and things. Like, just,
yeah,
you want to give me a gift, give me money. I don't care.
yeah.
Whatever. Give me $5. I'm happy like with that.
Yeah, you don't want to accumulate these things that don't
Yeah.
mean
So
anything.
stuff. So energetically for me, if someone gives me something that energetically, like, now I'm trying to like cut the cord, or so like with this like family wound, I guess you can say,
Yeah.
I will throw out, depending what it is, usually, because it's not like good stuff, like I'll donate stuff, but stuff like this, it gets ripped up, thrown out, burned, cut up, and then even you can like visualize, or you can even say out loud, like return to sender. Yeah, my notes were scattered. I was talking about detoxing, that I was going back to like anxiety and panic. And I think too, like, as the world is starting to open up. So we always talk about like in spring, like how I have a meltdown in spring because it's so overstimulating with like the birds chirping and everything is like green and like flowers
Mm-hmm.
and all this stuff. So like going a year or over a year without seeing anyone, family, friends, hugging anyone, and then now it's like everyone is just like not in your face, but like it's a little bit like shell shocking. And
Mhm.
I did get to see my grandma, and I hadn't hugged her for over a year, and I cried when I hugged her. I cried so
Yeah.
hard because it's like, and she's like, stop crying, like it's okay, like she's like this, and she's like, it's okay, and I'm just like a like puddle like in her hands. And oh yeah, and then going back to social media, because now I was like, I guess when I was writing big, I don't know if you do this with your notes. I have so much in my head that I'm just going and going, and
Yeah,
it's like what's
I
in my
put that
head,
in
I have to get.
text, and then I'm like, "Oh, a different thought," and then I voice text that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wait, none of this makes sense."
Yeah, and one of the things, so this works for anxiety, panic, even the negativity detoxing. I started going back to mindfulness, and like you
Mm,
said, who am I following on social media? And I unfollowed and deleted anyone that was negative,
yeah,
and because it's too much. And I started like
replace.
mindfully following, like, so I'm following a lot of like artists, creators, teachers,
Yeah.
anyone who projects their passions and joy into
Mhm.
the world. I want my feed like full of good things.
Right,
um,
anyone that can add value to your life rather than drain it is, like,
yeah.
who who
even
you should follow.
even businesses, like small businesses, I'd rather follow someone's small business to see what they're creating
Yeah,
than someone who's just complaining,
right.
like. And I think we've talked about this in the past before, how like, oh, nobody supports my business or nobody follows me. But it's like, I wish more people would, instead of thinking that like, oh, it's competition for my business, I
Yeah,
wish they would look at it like, look what I get to scroll through on my feed, like all of this positive
right.
like creations and this positive energy.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you do this as well, but when I'm detoxing from negativity, I'm retreating. So like it's like I go into like hibernation, where it's like, and I get really quiet. And that's also like if I'm in those anxious states, which we talked about that. And then having a support system. So like if you're in those states, like I do have that very small support system, um, that I can call
Mhm.
if my breathing is shallow, if I'm dizzy, if I'm feeling off. Um, I'm gonna repeat this again. Always remember in those moments to just focus on breathing. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter how you're breathing, whether
Yeah,
you're shallow breathing, whether you're hyperventilating breathing, because I do that a lot if I
yeah,
can't catch my breath. This is the most powerful tool that you can use to regain the balance within. And pausing to recharge for however long. And
mhm.
we didn't put a time limit on this. Like when I just reached out to Kenzie and I was like, I need a break, or like, can we take a break from recording? Because I would not be able to be mentally here with you guys. Um, and I didn't want to just like record me being in like this anxious, like uneasy. I didn't want to put that out into the world. Like when I'm like that, I like to
You have
kind
to
of
come.
go within.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
was gonna say too, like, you said take time to recharge. Schedule time to recharge, like, in each day, even if it's just 5 minutes to, like, sit and breathe, look away from a screen, go outside and stick your feet in the grass for 5 minutes, like, whatever it is, like, try to schedule it, even 5 minutes a day, just something to recharge, because once we stop doing that, then it all just adds up and we get farther and farther away from our grounded state, and then you explode into this panic. So if we can try to remember to schedule each day almost as like maintenance, then it hopefully won't build up to that panicked state. Because
yeah,
I get like that. I'll get into like this work mode and I'll just for a week straight just grind, 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 and then I forget about myself. And then I'm like, oh man, now I'm burnt out. Now my anxiety's like over the roof, like because I didn't schedule even just 5 minutes in the day to like go outside, like or do something for myself. So
yeah. And we may pause again in the future, who knows like what the future will bring.
Yeah.
One thing I also wanted, so you know how we talk about juicing? One of my friends introduced me to, it's a company called Your Super, and they have, so it's powders. So like, you know how I always complain like I hate cleaning the juicer, and there's like so
Yeah.
many different parts. So there's I have to just look it up because I forget the name of it. Okay. So I forgot what the name, and I'm laughing. It's called Gut Feeling.
That's
So
cool.
it's powdered celery, powdered lemon balm, powdered ginger, powdered Jerusalem artichoke heart, and maybe missing other ingredients. But it's a prebiotic, and it's all organic powders, and you just mix it with, I mix it with water. They say you can mix it with juice, um, but that's also supposed to help with like brain fog and give you energy. So you would take this in the morning. Um, I took it for a couple days, and now being back home, like I forgot like to take it. But and I had my mom try it because I brought some for her. I think Target started carrying
Okay.
them. They don't have this one though. They have like a bunch of other ones.
Mhm.
I think Target was having like 20% off when I looked, but they didn't have this one. And then I don't know if I might have discount, like a discount code. Like, you know, sometimes companies do that, like, oh, friends and family. I don't know. I ordered one just to try it. Um, but I guess if anyone wants to, like, if you need a coupon, reach out and be like, hey, do you have a coupon? I can check. I'm like, that's like the mom in me where it's like, use a coupon.
Oh, my mom says the coupon king.
Yeah. Um,
But
and
I guess
then,
like that's good too, because like we're talking about like detoxing of like people like
yeah,
read, but it's also like detoxing your body too of
yes,
just like the toxic stuff that we consume every day, like the soap that you use, the things that go on your face, like the things you put in your body. Like we also have to detox from this chemical toxicity because even if you're like the most organic, holistic person, there's still like metal in our water. There's still like these things that we can't get away from, pollution in the air and stuff like that. So as long as you're, you know, trying your best to like detox from those things, like you're better off than the next person. And when you detox your body, it also helps clear up space in your head to think in different ways. Because when you're like your body's so toxic with chemicals, whether it's from what you eat or what you put on your body, then your brain doesn't catch up. Like you're also stuck in that toxic mindset. When you start cleaning your body and treating it the right way, then your brain can open up to newer pathways as well.
yeah. I started, and then so with all that, I don't think I mentioned. So part of my detoxing is just being outside, walking more. I
Yeah.
keep track. There's a group on Facebook. Um, I don't really interact with them because I don't 100% agree with a lot of the parents that do their parenting things different than mine. But I like that group because some of them have really cool activities for kids or crafts. Or I found there's like an app, I think it's called iHour, where you can track how many, or it's like a tracking app. So I'm just tracking how many hours we're outside. So the 1,000 hours outdoors is to get 1,000 hours outside for the year. I think that's how that works. But for me personally, I'm not putting a time limit. I'm just like
Yeah.
kind of challenging myself, like not competing with any other people in the group, just like competing with myself of how many hours in a year can I get outside.
Right.
Um, and we're and one of the, I think we're like maybe like 60 hours since, and I only started tracking in February, but realistically, winter in New York, like
Yeah.
I'm not outside.
Yeah.
It's too
Yeah.
cold for me. Unless we get one of those like 40 or 50-degree, like
Mhm.
sunny days in winter, then I'll go outside. Um, but one of the days, so we're spending anywhere from 2 to 5 hours outside. So I know being outside for me is so healing, and just being, we did so my husband, he did that 24-hour marathon.
Mhm.
I may have talked about this like in past videos, but
Mhm.
he wanted to take me to the course so I can see like how it was, and just
Mhm.
like visualizing him like running through the woods in the
Mhm.
dark, like 20, like it was, by the time it got dark, it was just him and one other person running through the woods. And I
Mhm.
don't think they ever really passed each other because they were at different like speeds.
Mhm.
Um, but just going through, like being in the woods, and I just like, it was so pretty and by a lake, and I just started crying, like,
Yeah.
because it was so peaceful, it was so quiet, and I
Mhm.
had not had that in over a year. Like everything that we've collectively
Yeah.
gone through. And one of the things that my therapist had said to me when I was on the phone with her, she goes, for the last year, everyone, we were all just holding our breath.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was going to happen. And when she
Mhm.
said that to me, I was like, because I couldn't, like, I was having this like shallow, like breathing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was holding my breath because,
Mhm.
like, everything, it's hard to not talk about the pandemic when we are doing these videos because it's intertwined our
Yeah.
lives so much that
Mhm.
we're now like going, like we're trying to navigate living our life
Yeah.
like in a pandemic and in a different way.
Right. I also wanted to touch on too, because like the spaces that you frequent, because you were saying like, oh, you feel so grounded in nature and like that's a place that brings you joy for me as well. And then I was just thinking like the opposite of that in terms of detoxing from places, like places that you used to frequent that don't serve you or that give you bad energy. Like if there's a coffee shop that you go to every day that you get coffee but you don't feel good after you're in there, you leave, find a different coffee spot. Like detox from places that don't make you feel good, like, and get back into places that do make you feel good. Because I feel like we don't really think about that part when we think about
Yeah.
detoxing from things. It's not only it's not only decluttering your own space of where you live, but it's like detoxing from other places that you used to frequent and that you go to that don't serve you.
Yeah. And throw out the knickknacks.
Yeah, and throw out all the knickknacks. Now I'm looking around my room like, oh no, if Becky saw my room right now, she would be freaking
Yeah,
out.
and I'm laughing because even certain things like I'll call Violet's toys, like if she doesn't play with them anymore, like if she's grown out of them, like, this is a knickknack, this needs to go, like we'll
Yeah.
put that, like some, either I'll give away her stuff or stuff, like I'll keep some
Mhm.
stuff, and then some stuff like um one of her one of Derek's friends has a lot of these toys behind, were hand-me-downs from her friends, and then there was
Mhm.
another toy that she doesn't really play with. It's like this big, like bulky kitchen set. And then
Mhm.
her one little friend, I reached out to her mom and I said, would she play with this? And she's like, oh yes, we're into kitchen toys now. So I'm like, it's
Mhm.
all yours,
Yeah.
So stuff
Mhm.
like that. But yeah, and I laugh. But when it comes to crystals, I'm just like I
Give
always
me all of them.
give me all, like those are my knickknacks. Like those are my secret knickknacks, crystals, herbs, teas, like
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
whenever you like are detoxing, like you can replace with positive things. Like it doesn't mean you have to have nothing in your house now, but just like replace it with positive things. Like
yeah, so I love when it comes to decluttering
Mhm.
like my space. I think like places like you said, and it's funny because I've had like in certain places, I'm like, energy in this
Yeah.
place like doesn't, something's off, or like something in me, like I'm just feeling uncomfortable, and then I won't like go there. And then but at home I'm just like, oh, like to me I'm like spring clean like all year round, like when,
Mhm.
because I also feel like the energy does shift. And even my husband, he's like, the energy. like the energy in here is different. And I'm like, I know, because we're getting rid of all this junk, like all this stuff that we don't need. Or I have the habit of, so like the space will be maybe like decluttered, but I'm like, if I don't know where to put something, I'm like, just shove it in the closet. Like, so like the closets, and then I'm like,
Everyone has that one junk drawer that just has every random thing in it.
yeah, I have, yeah, or like I have a couple different junk drawers, but they're organized where I'm like, if they're cards that like I saved, or like
Yeah.
house like kitcheny like knick-knacky things that are like kitchen gadgets that you don't know where to put, throw it in the drawer.
Yeah. So
But um
I had a few more notes
okay, yeah, sure.
I wanted to touch on. Like I think what people mistake about like this healing process or whatever you want to call like what journey we're on, self-discovery, whatever you want to call it. People, I feel like they think it's supposed to feel good, but it doesn't always feel good at the start. Just because we're detoxing from these things, it will feel good in the long run, but at the start it doesn't feel good. Like you question like, oh, this person's gonna hate me because I unfollowed them, but in the long run you'll feel better that that negativity is out. But in the moment, it's not a good feeling to detox. So don't let that deter you from doing it, because in the long run it will be, the results afterwards are just like insurmountable. Like you're gonna be so free, but in the moment it's not always going to feel good, and that's okay. So like I just wanted to make that point because that kind of just deterred me at the start of my journey from a lot of things, and I'm like, oh wait, well this doesn't feel good, I'm detoxing like from these things and these emotions and I don't feel good anymore. It's like, well, you have to go through that hard part to get to the good. And I know that's like nobody wants to hear that, and that's like the cliche, like you have to have the bad with the good, but it's so true. It's not going to feel okay at first, but afterwards that weight is then lifted from you. And it's the same thing with detoxing. It's not fun at first, but eventually it's worth it. So just like be patient with the process of whatever you're detoxing, whether it's physically or whether it's things or people or spaces. It's okay if it doesn't feel good at the start, because don't let that discourage you from continuing to do that. And then the other thing I had was like, we like our humans as a species have like a negativity bias, like where our brains are conditioned to look for the bad because at one point we needed that to survive, for survival. Like our brains needed to look for all of the threats so that we can protect ourselves and our families. So now that all of our basic needs are met, we have shelter, hopefully, you're in a space where you do have a home where you are, you can have food and water every day. Those needs are now met. So now we can let go of this negativity mindset that everything is a threat. And in order to do that, yes, it's good to know what your negative triggers are, but think about what your happiness triggers are as well. Like people always focus on, oh, well, that this is a negative trigger for me. And it's good to be aware of those. I'm not saying discount that, but also think about the opposite. What are things that make me happy? And think of those things as well in those harder times where your mind is not in the right space. Like, what are your happiness triggers? It's good, again, to know the root cause of your negative triggers, but if you're not thinking about how to replace them with your happy triggers, then you're just at this standstill. So I forgot where I saw it. I think it was like just a graphic on Instagram from like some psychologist or something, but she said, you know, what are your happiness triggers? And it had like different things: going in nature, journaling, listening to music, dancing while no one's watching, like whatever your happiness triggers are, like remember those too in the times where you're not feeling so great and when you are trying to like detox from these negative things, so that way we can replace it with the positive, because it's not meant to make you feel worse. It's again, it's not going to feel good at the start, but eventually it's supposed to make you feel better. So I just wanted to touch on those things, because if we're not consuming things and saying things and doing things that align with our purpose, then what's the point of doing them? So that's pretty much where my brain goes with this.
I
And then
had,
go
oh,
ahead. I
no, no,
had
no.
like just basic tips and tricks, but go ahead.
No, it's a story. So finish it.
My just, I guess, tips like when you are detoxing from negativity, find one, your happiness triggers, find ways to ground yourself. Meditation and breathing exercises always help me, and they're scientifically proven to relax your parasympathetic nervous system. Being in nature, yoga, or any kind of conscious movement is really helpful. Gratitude journals. We've talked about all these things before, but anything that you can do to replace the negative habits, the negative thoughts, any of the negativity with positive ones, that's what you want to do for these situations. So it's all the tips you've already heard from us before, but just reminders to continue to do those things. And that's all for me.
Okay. No, when you had said the social media thing, so remember how I was like, oh, it's like you like the reaction of like the other person. So
Yeah.
recently I was in the grocery store and I had one of the workers, this was from like a while back, they were on my social media and but I never really felt comfortable with them. Like I'm like, because they were the person that they would never like comment or interact. And then I would see them maybe like a week or so later. And then they would like say things about like my posts. And I'm like, huh? Because I'm like, I don't even remember what I posted 5 minutes ago. Like, and now I have to remember like what you're even talking about. And I don't know, I just thought that that was kind of like weird to me.
Right, like they're not engaging on social, but they're watching
Yeah.
you, and then
Yeah.
yeah, I get that.
So I deleted them because I'm like, because we had moved and I'm like, oh, I won't be in this like store all the time anymore. And then like, however, like it's probably like 2 years now,
Yeah.
um, or more. And so I go there and I had gone there like a couple times, like sporadically, never saw them. So I'm like, oh, maybe they don't work here anymore. Okay, fine. And then I go there. Now I'm in a mask, right? So I think I'm slick. Like I'm in a mask. Nobody knows who I am. I'm like, it's like I'm hidden, like how you said, like we're hiding, like because I don't want to be bothered. And they were there. And I was like, oh God, I had this moment of like, I just wanted to crawl under the table.
Because you're expecting them to be like, "Why'd you unfollow me?"
Yeah, I
Or
was waiting for it. I was like waiting for it. And at but the way, like my mindset where I was like, I'm fighting because I'm in no mood. Like that's like they caught me on like a day where I felt like, no, like we're
yeah,
not
we're
doing
not
this.
going there.
And they were just like, oh, how are you? And I'm like, oh, good. And like, oh, I haven't seen you like around. And I'm like, oh yeah, we moved. And I'm like, oh, I had a baby. Or I think they were like, oh, what's new or something. And I'm like, oh, I had a baby. And like it was a little bit awkward, but I
Mhm.
was just like, just get me out of this. Like
Yeah.
I just need to get my stuff and like I don't want to like engage with you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too awkward, but I was like, oh yeah, we moved. Like, and I'm not here. Like, I'm like, okay, bye. Like, kind of a thing. So it will happen. So like those fears, because I've had those same fears. But and I've even had that on the flip side where, because I always get like, how dare someone delete me? Like, I don't, what am I, like, I do nothing online. Like, that's my ego getting like the best of me. So I experienced like both, like
Both
being a
sides.
deleter with the deletee.
Yeah, that's so funny.
but, but yeah, and like Kenzie said, I just wanted to piggyback on that last thing, how, yeah, like me crying in the beginning of this like video, yeah, it's uncomfortable. Like, for me to be vulnerable and just like be hysterically crying and trying to get the words out to like putting that on social media is not easy for me. And it's like, having to take those breaks because like I don't want to look like, oh, I'm always crying or, whatever. I think that's my mind playing tricks on me, like, oh, people are going to think you're always crying. And then I have to be like, no, like I'm showing my human emotions. Like,
Right. If
some,
anything, like I want to see more of that on social media. I don't see your
yeah.
photo shoot.
matchy.
Yeah, like that's okay, it's aesthetically pleasing, whatever, like if that's what you like to do, I understand, but it
Yeah.
doesn't show the real raw person behind that photo. And I think that's what's like so detrimental to especially like the younger generations is like they're growing up seeing perfectionism, and then that's making them like mentally like so depressed. Like the younger generations are like statistically way more depressed like at younger ages. Like it's just insane because they're watching people not be them true selves and thinking that they have to be that. And if we just saw more people like us like cry and be vulnerable and be real people and show that, show yourself without makeup, show that you have hairy armpits, like whatever it is, like I don't care, like show your real self, like we all have it, like it, you don't have to be perfect. And I think that's what's like the thing that grinds my gears the most is like I'm watching my younger cousins like go through this life, and I'm like they're worried about all the wrong things, and I'm just like I wish I could just shake them and be like, no, but like don't focus on those things, like you're perfect the way you are, like everyone has these imperfections, they're just not showing them to you, like. And so like if social media was more like that, I feel like the world would just be so different.
Even like the mom like postpartum, like, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh, like I just had a baby and like lost
and
like
now I gotta
uh,
bounce back to my
yeah,
pre-baby,
I saw
like.
this online where a lot of I didn't know that this was a thing, but so I saw this thing online where I guess there's these coaches that friend request mom accounts to
Mhm.
then try to, so I guess it's like the direct sales where they're cold messaging and it's
Yeah,
like for weight loss stuff.
but they're playing
And
off like where you're vulnerable about because they know you
yeah,
baby and like this is your thing that you're insecure about, and then they're playing off of that. It's like,
yeah, like so
oh,
I didn't, so I was like, oh, that's why, because I was getting like a lot of these weird like
okay.
coaches following me. I'd never really got any messages. Um, but I was just because I'm like, let them message me. I'm not that
Yeah,
in that vulnerable state. Like, so with the messaging, I'm like, let them try to do that to me because I don't need them. Like when I exercise and do my stuff, it's like by myself. But I think so far, I think I'm like down like 7 pounds. Like,
that's
so,
awesome.
and that's just from being more active. And so this hypothyroidism can also make it more difficult for people to lose weight. So it's getting all those, like how you said, it's not just like, it's like people, places, things, yourself. It's the whole package of
Yeah.
detoxing.
Your whole life has, each part of it has something to detox from. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, so I think I went through all my notes. And then hopefully if you guys have any questions on the stuff like the acupressure mat or any of the stuff that Kenzie mentioned, the apps and stuff, always like leave a comment or send us a message.
yeah,
Because I know I always say to myself, oh, I'll just like have all the things and then record day like I completely forget because I'm like
yeah.
everything's all over the house. I'm running around and then I'm like, oh, we'll just mention it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and staying patient while we took our break. Remember to take your breaks and detox from all things negative and replenish with positivity. And we will see you for our next topic soon. Bye.
Bye.